All right, welcome everybody to the Community Manager Brain Trust After Party. This was a blast. I love the community manager group. I love the community of community managers. There's so many great things that are shared. We just wrapped up our Brain Trust event. If you're a community manager, please join us. We get into some fabulous conversations, and this is definitely an industry that is just on its uptick, like just blowing up right now. So at the beginning of every event, I always like to ask people what their challenge is, what are they facing, what are community managers facing right now in the industry. And the top most upvoted sticky note was actually, how are you measuring community sentiment inside of your groups? So I've got this amazing panel. We've got about 16, or let's see, 6, 8, 9, 10. We've got 10 community managers from different communities joining me on this panel, and we are here to just talk about community sentiment. How are you measuring it? What insights does it provide for you? What do you do with that data? And with that being said, I'm going to open it up, and let's just start this conversation with, let's just talk about community sentiment and how you're measuring it. What's your take on it? Why is it important? And how do you go about measuring it? Who wants to go first? Lindsay?
Yeah. So I'm Lindsay Winthrop, community manager at Cumulo. And in terms of measuring our users' sentiments, I really find just talking with them directly and just checking in is so valuable. Just hearing their thoughts, like what do they want to see? What are they not liking? Like what do they want us to rein in, right? Besides that, really kind of following the metrics we use on our end of, how many people are visiting, what content is trending, what forums have the most posts, things like that, and really check out that engagement piece to see like what's effective, what's not, and then reevaluate. We've really found that like just getting them as part of the process in terms of feedback, helping them build this and make sure that they know it's about them is really, ensuring the success of how the community is growing.
Fantastic. Yeah. So a lot of qualitative data mixed with quantitative data kind of leads you in a direction that allows the community to guide what they want to see and what they want to actually see more of. What about some other thoughts out there? What are some other things you all are doing? Michael, and then John.
Hi, I'm Michael Hall. I'm a community manager at Influx Data. We make and distribute an open source database tool. And my community is very much a support community. So just having more people involved and being active doesn't necessarily mean we're doing a good job. Like it could be we've broken something and everybody's angry at us, and that results in a lot of activity. So I've looked at a lot of tools to try and gauge the sentiment of the actual conversations that are going on. And I found that it's pretty hard to evaluate natural language for that kind of information. But where I have had success is just doing keyword matching on thankful terms like thank you, thanks, I appreciate it, and being able to just track that activity over time. Because even if we've broken something and made a lot of people angry, if we're still seeing a lot of that kind of sentiment, that means that we're at least taking care of them once they come into our community.
Oh, wow. That's brilliant, Michael. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Great advice. John, and then Jess.
Yeah, thanks so much. My name is John Summers. I'm a senior community manager at Grazidi Interactive, we're an agency that helps other people build communities. So I've been doing it for a long time. So I think the anecdotal and putting those quotes in and being part of the community is like an essential part of of being a community manager. But I come from enterprise world where my community is a couple million members. And to be able to scale that for, say, like an HP or something, the only way to do that is to use a social media monitoring and sentiment analysis tool. Looking at something like a Sprinkler or a Hootsuite or a Sprout, it's really meant for social media, but you can actually point those towards your URL of your site and get sentiment analysis and ratings based off that in an automated fashion. The other way we see a lot of sentiment analysis happening is within bots. Right. So within chatbots, within all these different engagement bots that are on people's site, give a fair amount of sentiment analysis so you can really get a gauge of how bad people hate you, like if something's going bad, by looking at your sentiment analysis of your chat tool. So community member managers don't necessarily think about their chat tool, but it can give you a glimpse into what people are doing in your ecosystem and are complaining about by pulling some reporting out of your chat or AI bot.
Yeah, that's actually a perfect segue. My name is Jess. I'm the community director at an agency called 1,000 Heads. So we manage a number of different communities. And I think both what you said and also what Michael was saying are related to how we approach it. So there's social platforms and native tools, as well as publishing providers like Social Bakers, Khoros, things like that, that do have an automated sentiment tool. The kicker is that sentiment is not, it's not a perfect metric. So there's always a human scrub needed to sort of ensure that the automated tools are getting it right. Words like "this is sick" may come up as a negative, whereas if you use machine learning or artificial intelligence, that's when you can kind of train models to really register common words and then over time get closer to a sentiment tool. So the short answer for me is we measure sentiment partially using tools, but also still relying on human analysis. And what I'd really like to see in the industry is for AI and ML practitioners to develop a more precise machine learning sentiment tool that can really analyze what people are saying in a more exact way. I think the industry would go wild for it. And obviously we could all really use something like that. So partnering with tech, I think, is our move going forward.
Yeah, so Donnie Weinstein, I'm a senior director of community over at Kaltura, and I mean, currently right now, we're literally building on a brand new community. So we're currently in beta; it's invite only, and so it's a bit early to measure, on a scale sentiment. But there certainly are, a number of anecdotal things we're looking at. We're already getting customer feedback, through the CSMs and AEs talking about, again, unsolicited comments about, things that they like or don't like about community. That's sort of one element. The two is just looking at, because it's invitation only, how much adoption are we getting based on the invitations that are sent out, looking at the traffic of page views and returning visits, commentary that's being made. If I go back to previous roles, Adoma, which is again another B2B SaaS community, over time as we started to scale this out, we were having surveys being run, let's say Qualtrics embedded on the community, and so you could quick pulse of did you find the information you're looking for? Would you recommend, the use of the community for a colleague, things like that? That would give you a good indication of sentiment. And then also, particularly in the SaaS world, it's sort of not necessarily sentiment, but, going beyond just, let's say, traditional support community or marketing community, really driving the value of, okay, marketing and sales understands advocacy, they understand upsell, retention, renewals. We could actually prove over a long period of time that active stars in community, those accounts that actually had active members of community in the community, those accounts were typically healthier and less at risk than accounts that had nobody in community at all. And so that was kind of the enchilada in the room, where if you could actually show that, it was eye-opening.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's the next frontier for community is attribution.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you intelligently take sentiment? Sentiment has kind of been that thing that proves ROI, but how do we take that a step further and combine that into your CRM to attribute that the community involvement is actually helping you sell better customers and helping you retain longer? And I think that's the next frontier for this, for the community industry right now. People are doing some really cool stuff with Salesforce that I've seen, but I definitely think people are still breaking stuff, trying to figure that out.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity. And I mean, I had the luxury of being at Domo, so I had some pretty brilliant data scientists working with me to integrate the lithium platform that we were using. But absolutely, I mean, that's definitely it. And again, but in most cases, whether you're in a SaaS solution or even just a general product situation, historically, the more that one of the key metrics for that, internally they were looking at for upsell and renewal was the actual number of logins that customers had. So it's really based on product usage. So the more that your customers are using a product, the stickier the product is going to be, the likelier they're going to be to renew. And so again, community, education, everything about onboarding and getting your customers better at using your platform, that's just going to lead to a better revenue stream long term.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Anyone want to wrap up with any final thoughts? Okay,
Getting
this is
better. It's
oh.
I would say it's getting better. Like the
Yeah.
advancements, like man, like Donnie and myself are doing this a long time, like last 10, 15 years, like this wasn't even an option, right? To try and show these numbers. You had to move mountains to try and mash this data up. But now it's become with APIs and everybody moving to SaaS software. This is a solvable problem, right? You can pull these data sets together if you have the will and the might and the funding. You can solve these problems. So,
well, John, I like too that you brought in chatbots into the mix, because that's something that we're not widely seeing yet in communities, but something that, to your point, can be easily deployed and gives you so much data insight into how you are engaging people if you can create, smart chatbot logic. So this has been a fantastic discussion. And Michael, yes, please jump in with a couple products that you use.
Okay. Yeah. So there's several different community CRM tools that have spread it up over the last year and 2 years. One of them, Savannah CRM, I've been building. In the same space, there's also Orbit and ComSor, and they're all trying to do this same, get all your community information from all the different places together, who's doing what, connect that back into the values that the company is looking to get out of the community. So there's 3 tools that I know of at least, and then there's another one called Crunch Data that's trying to look a little bit at audience sentiment too. So between those 4, there's a lot of startups right now trying to tackle this problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's another one that I've seen, Nuvi. It's local here to Utah and by Domo. They've actually traditionally been in social media, but I think they could do well inside a community. Does anyone else have other tools that they would want to mention, Lindsay?
I was just gonna say thanks to Michael for that, because it's one of those things where, like, well, let's be real, when you're trying to meet the business objectives as well as make your users happy, having that data is so key to prove why you're going the right direction. So yeah, those kind of tools in terms of metrics, measuring that to essentially ensure that everything is a success is huge. So thank you for doing that. Appreciate it.
All right. With that, we'll end on that note. Again, thank you all so much for your inputs. Fantastic conversation. And we'll see you at the next Brain Trust.